absolutely magnificent mouldings, and they add lots of character to any of your WW1 dioramas. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I'm going to be looking at some of the copper state models, figures to be exact. So I've got a couple of them here. Now I've picked out these two. They do have a lot in their range, but these are really well sculpted and beautiful looking figures that complement any of the World War I type vehicles. So Copper State do make their own kits. Now this was their first 35th scale armoured car kit. Very, very popular. This is the English Lanchester, which is also used by the Russians and was used quite often with Rolls Royces as well. So that's a Lanchester. Now, I'm a firm believer in adding figures to models because it brings so much more human element and life to the model as well. Make a little vignette, makes it more interesting. So something to go perfectly with this are these two British sets I've got here. So this is figure number 1 and figure number 2. So we'll go to the overhead now. Okay. So that's the first one there. Figure number 1 is the officer on tea break, and how fitting for British figures and have them having tea. Quite synonymous with the British, and I think they look quite interesting on their break. So you've got the officer there, and then you've got the serviceman who's about to take a sip, also there. So I'll just open these up and I'll show you how clean the molds are and how well sculpted these are as well. So let's start with the officer. Super great packaging. It's very thick cardboard, as you can see, and you want that because resin can be quite fragile. Now, these have travelled a long way. Copper State Models is from Latvia, so coming to Australia, it's other side of the world. But in this packaging, they're never damaged, and all the parts are kept within this Ziploc bag. Now let's open it up and we'll have a look at all the individual bits. The castings are very, very clean. All right, so let's just separate it out. There we go. Got the head there. There's the arm with the cup, and there's the other arm that's resting on the hip. Now let me just zoom it in a bit. Let's go on this. Right, now we'll just focus it. All right, now let me just shift these things around. It's a bit of a digital zoom just so you can see all the fine details. Okay, so let me just highlight some of these parts. Now you see the little sprue there. Now that's because with resin casting, the resin is actually poured into a mold and it's poured this way. And that's a little extra part for all the air and the excess resin to escape. So that needs to be trimmed off. Same with this part here. And then the head, from the looks of it, was done this way. But that's already pretty clean, so you may not need to trim that. And then we have the body, and you can see how there's the blocks on the feet. So they're the bits that need to be trimmed there. Now generally when you look at these, there's so much detail because resin casting is done in a silicon mold. Whoops. And silicon is quite flexible, so you can get all these undercut details, like under the fabric and such. And then here, to get it out of the mold would have been cut. You might be able to see that mold line there, across the bottom and across here. So those bits are the only bits that you need to clean up. The rest of it would have been one piece, which means there shouldn't be any mold lines anywhere there. There may be some imperfections, but these are very, very good. So you just have to have a close look at it after you've primed it, and you'll be able to notice all those once the primer's down. So they're very easy to remove. Probably best with a razor saw, or you can use some side cutters if you're very careful. The only thing is with side cutters is the shock can be quite harsh, and because the resin is brittle, they can break at certain parts. So if you're not careful, it may break across here, but you should be right with some side cutters that are sharp. Okay. Let's focus on the head. Okay, so that's, you just see how crisp all the details are. Now he's got a moustache as well. You see the quality of the sculpting in the ears. The folds on the top of the cap as well. And then across the back you've got these tufts of hair that are sticking out. And then this should just fit within this gap here. And you can see just there, just how cleanly, whoops, and how quickly it falls out if you're not careful, how it just fits in there. Okay, it's going to fall out because I've got it on this angle. can see how you can set the angle of his head slightly. So you can have that custom to where you want it. And then with the arms, they have the same locating blocks here as well, little pins. And that goes in here. And just like that, you see how the join is quite crisp, like so. So once you glue that in, you probably only need the slightest amount of putty. When you look at it like this, you probably don't need any putty at all. Okay, so I've got that. Let's see if I'm lucky, I'll get it all together without it falling apart. Then you've got the other arm resting on the hip. And you see how that joint is really good too. So that's the officer. So let's quickly have a look at this guy. Okay, so this is the Serviceman on T-brake, F35-0002. So he's got a nice pose as well. Just about to take a swig of his tea. All right, now I'll empty all these bits here. Okay, so standing figure. So again, you can see how it's cast with blocks on the feet. That's quite standard. See how the jacket is quite a little bit different, but all the creases are just so crisp. There's no way you can get any of this detail in an injection molded kit. You can get very close. The Mini Art kits, the newer Tamiya kits, Masterbox kits are very close, but you still won't get all the sharp details, say, around the collars and such. Quite a lot of people do clean those up with a knife on the plastic injected kits just to get this sort of look, but this is where it's all supremely detailed. You see all the windings around the legs as well. For the wound putties, go very high for WW1. You imagine there's so much mud. And then here's a head. And again, you see how it plugs in. And you see how his head is looking down because he's getting ready to swig his cup of tea. See how detailed the goggles are? Very nice. Now, if you wanted to see some really nicely painted examples of these, Michael Butler from New Zealand has painted some very nice examples. I don't know if he's done these particular figures, but he has done other Copper State Models figures, and they just look amazing. Okay, so with a bit of time and effort, you can get these looking quite realistic. Okay, so we'll put in the arm. See that, how his cup is getting close to his face there. And then, that's not going to stay, but I'll put on the other one. And then, got the other arm there. And it looks like he's holding on to probably a biscuit. Ready for his tea break. So you can see there how beautiful these figures are. Okay, so let's just zoom out again. All right, so there you go. There's your Serviceman with his bits. You got your officer, and then you got his arms. And then magnificent figures. Resin cast figures by Copper State Models, World War I. So they concentrate on World War I figures. They do 32nd scale as well for some of their aircraft. They also match up with wingnut wings. Unfortunately, wingnut wings is gone now, but you can use them for other aircraft from other brands as well, including the Newport, which Copper State Models do make as well, which is beautiful. So that's it there. All right, so here we go. We've got these figures from Copper State Models, resin cast, 35th scale. Absolutely magnificent moldings, super detail, and they add lots of character to any of your World War I 1/35 scale vignettes or dioramas.